Well, now it's time for dessert, and what smells better than apple cake baking in the oven? Joining us with a recipe is Italian chef Deborah Dal Fovo.
Thanks, Bruce. In Italy, we say casa dolce casa, which means home sweet home, and there's nothing that says it better than a freshly baked homemade apple dessert. My Italian apple cake comes from my Nonna and her homeland in Trentino Alto Adige. It's where the finest apples grow. And today we're going to be making it with some very simple ingredients. We've got fresh farmed eggs, milk, sugar, flour, a little lemon zest for some aromatic fragrance, and some beautiful golden delicious apples that are sliced. I've already prepared a springform pan by greasing it and dusting it with flour. And I'm going to set that aside. And now I'm going to start by peeling my apples. And these are golden delicious apples that I'm using. They're perfect for baking because they hold their shape and they're just the right touch of sweetness. And this is a perfect time of year for apples. Actually, apples are good most of the year, from September through June. So once you've got your apples peeled, I'm going to cut it in half. And then I like to core them with the melon baller because it makes the same size hollow in each of the apples. And then when I slice them, they all come out the same size and they look really nice. And actually, I'm going to use this to hollow out this side too. And I've already got sliced apples that I've done earlier. The recipe uses about 5 apples, 5 medium-sized apples. So it's important to get the apples fairly thin. You still want a little bit of crunch. Golden Delicious is good because it does hold up. It doesn't fall apart when it's baking. And now I'm just going to squeeze some fresh lemon juice over the top so they don't discolor. And this is very important because otherwise your apples will start turning brown and you don't want that. Just toss them gently. Great. So our next step is to prepare the dry ingredients. I'll melt 7 tablespoons of butter and add 1/3 cup of milk to the butter. This will cool the butter slightly and warm the milk so they're both tempered. Next, I'm going to be preparing the dry ingredients. I've got 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm adding a pinch of salt. I'm adding 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And then I'm whisking all the dry ingredients together to make sure they're well blended. Now we're going to prepare our wet ingredients. I'm breaking 2 eggs into my mixing bowl. And then I'm going to add 1 cup of granulated sugar. And then I'm going to whisk my eggs and sugar until they're nice and pale and creamy. So you can do this with an electric mixer, but I like to do it by hand. It's more natural. Okay, we've got that to a nice, creamy, pale yellow stage. And now I'm going to add the secret ingredient, which is grated lemon zest. And in Italy, most baked goods have a little bit of grated lemon zest or orange zest. And that gives it a nice aromatic fragrance. So it's important to use just the yellow of the lemon zest and don't get any of the white pith because it's bitter. So now we've got our lemon zest, and I'm going to start adding our dry ingredients to our wet ingredients, a little at a time, so I can incorporate them and blend them well. Now we're going to add our milk and butter, and we're going to just beat it gently without overworking the flour until a nice batter forms, a nice smooth batter. So our batter is nice and smooth and it forms a little ribbon, and that's how we want it. Now we're going to add our apples, and I'm going to add just about half of the sliced apples, and I'm going to fold those into our batter. And it's okay if they get broken up a little bit because these are going to be the succulent apple pieces in our cake that's going to make it so moist. So that's the cake batter. It's as easy as that. Now we're going to spread it into our prepared springform pan. Now we're just going to smooth the top. And that's it. Now comes our last and final step, which is the most important. We're going to be layering our apple slices over the top of the cake. And this gives it, even though it's a homemade cake, it gives it a beautiful professional look. So it really looks like you've been in your kitchen all day long preparing this delicious apple cake with lots of love. So we're just putting our last few slices in to finish our beautiful crown of apples, and that looks beautiful. And then I'm going to sprinkle it with some sugar, a couple of tablespoons over the top of my apples. So when they bake, they caramelize a little bit with the sugar, and it just tastes delicious. And we did not add any sugar to the apples previously, so it works out just perfect. And then I'm going to dot the top of the cake with some little pieces of butter. So this is our final cake ready to go in the oven. It's going into a 350-degree preheated oven for about 1 hour and 10 minutes. And remember, when you test it, it won't be dry. It'll be a little bit moist because it is a moist cake. Our Italian apple cake is done. You can tell because it's pulled away from the sides, and it's a beautiful golden brown color on top, and the fragrance is incredible. After 10 minutes, we'll remove the sides of the springform pan and then put it on a beautiful platter, sprinkle it with powdered sugar, and serve it to your family. For me, this is a true slice of home in casa mia. I hope you enjoy it. Buon appetito.
Well, thanks, Deborah. That really looks good. And coming up next, make your own